noticed in a lot of people's 2014 book/booktube resolutions videos, one of a lot of people's goals was just to overall buy less books in 2014. So today I'm going to be trying to give out some hopefully helpful advice on how to do that. But I should point out at the beginning of this, obviously there's nothing wrong with book buying. This video is just specifically for those people who recognize that they're spending too much money and they're just acquiring way too many books that they're not reading. I also should point out that these aren't going to be concrete tips, because one thing I've noticed that people tend to do is say they'll go on book buying bans, allot themselves a budget, and in the end people always end up having a book haul and being like, so the book buying ban, it's not going so well. So this video isn't going to be tips like that on certain things to do and not to do, because I think when it comes to trying to buy less books, it's overall much more important to kind of change your mentality and change your mindset about buying and collecting books. Because I kind of look at a book buying ban the same way I look at just, trying to simply cut off yourself from your favorite foods. It might work for a little bit, but eventually you're gonna crack, and overall I just don't think it's helpful in the long run. But again, if those things work for you, then 100% go ahead and keep doing it. So I'm going to give 3 probably kind of vague tips overall that have personally helped me, and hopefully they can help you guys out. So the number one thing that has personally helped me to buy less books is to recognize that my wallet, and this might seem obvious, a lot of these tips might seem obvious, but I just think it's important to really think about them, but to recognize that your wallet does not recognize the difference between spending $50 to $100 a month on books and $50 to $100 on, say, in-game points on Candy Crush. Side note, I didn't know people actually spent money on Candy Crush until one of my friends pointed out that she's spent $30 so far this month. I think the problem is that a lot of us justify book buying by saying, well, it's literature, we're expanding our vocabulary, we're opening ourselves up to new worlds and new cultures and causing ourselves to think critically. And while all of that is completely true, those are all reasons why I read. Either way, money is money, and it makes no difference if you're spending it on books or, say, spending $100 on fake eyelashes a month. Because no matter what, you can shop your bookshelf and your TBR, rent books from a library, borrow them from your friends. Rushing out to Barnes & Noble is probably the last way that I buy books. Because of course reading books for you is, say, better for you than painting your nails, but because you don't actually need to spend money on books to read them, spending money on books isn't any different than spending your money on nail polish. My number 2 tip is to just overall try and lessen the importance of the physicality of the books. I think a lot of us get so obsessed with just adding to, our rainbow shelf and just loving those shiny, brand new book-smelling covers. And while part of that is, I'm sure, an aspect that all of us love about reading, of course we all know that the real important parts of those stories isn't just how pretty it looks on our bookshelf, it's the story inside it. And especially if you're buying tons of books that you're not even reading, and it's just sitting on your shelf and looking pretty, then what even is the point? Now, I'm not saying that people who buy a lot of books think the physical book is more important than the story inside, but I think we get so obsessed with just the book buying process, with ownership and the way that the cover looks. I used to be that way, and I used to get so angry at, say, cover changes. And once again, I will point out there's nothing wrong with wanting the newest edition and having it look nice on your bookshelf. I'm just saying that if you're obsessed with book buying, you're probably a little bit too obsessed with that. Another example is, say I walk into a discount bookstore and I see a bunch of shiny, brand new books. They're beautiful, they're hardcover, I've heard of all of them, and they're all, say, around $5. That's a really good deal, but at the same time, that $5 on each book really does add up over time. So just make yourself recognize that, and oftentimes, say there's that book that's brand new and beautiful and it's $5, I'll force myself to not buy it, and then a lot of times I'll actually end up in the library and see it there, and I'll realize, you know what, I don't even really have the urge to check that out and read it that much. It was more so that I just heard about it on BookTube so much, I was like, oh my god, it's $5, I need it. But I didn't actually want to really read the story so much, it was just like I'd heard so much about it, I just felt like it was such a good deal, I needed it. You don't need it. Keep telling yourself that. And number 3 is kind of more of a side note tip, and that's just to kind of look at some of your book buying behavior, and I know I've done this, and just realize how kind of silly it is. For instance, I'll see a lot of people, and this is a random example, I haven't seen anybody do it with this series, but I have seen people do it with others. Where say they'll be holding up a brand new edition of Pandemonium they found, and they'll say, I didn't really like Delirium, but this was $7, so I can't say no to that, can I? If you didn't like the first book in the series, maybe go check it out from the library so it's free and you can sort of see if it gets better, but why would you spend money on it simply because it's a good deal? Another example of ridiculous book buying, and if you probably should be a member of like Book Buyers Anonymous, is if say you own the first book in a series and you haven't read it, but then you see books like 2, 5, and 6, and they're each, say again, like $7 each and brand new, and you're like, well, I have the first one, so naturally I need to buy all of the other ones, right? No, read the first book and see if you actually even enjoy that, no matter how much other people say that they've liked it. So those were kind of my 3 overall tips on changing your mentality on buying books. And I hope this was helpful. I know they're kind of vague tips, but obviously this isn't a subject where you can give people concrete things to do to change their habits. You just have to change the way you think about it. At the end of this video, I will link a video I did all on my favorite cheap places to buy books, whether that's physical store chains or online. And as a final side note, I know a lot of people might say, Katie, you're a booktuber. Shouldn't you be going out and buying books in order to support the book industry? I'm a 22-year-old college senior who has literally no idea what I'm going to do once I graduate. Being a really active supporter of the book buying industry is not even on my top 100 goals right now. I have other expenses where it's paying off for college or just saving up for other big things in my life. Definitely do not feel that pressure on my shoulders at all. Again, I hope this video was helpful. Make sure to give your tips down below or let me know what you thought of these, and I will see you guys soon. Bye.